Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in. I know you use this video to fall asleep. If you enjoy our stories, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, where are you from and what city are you watching? I love seeing where you're listening from. Now, let's dive in. My name is Marcus Chen, and I've been part of specialized search and rescue operations for 12 years. I've pulled bodies from collapsed mines, navigated flooded cave systems, and retrieved lost hikers from wilderness areas that existed on no official map. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what we encountered in the Backrooms. The briefing came at 0600 hours on a Tuesday morning that felt like any other. Commander Sarah Walsh stood before our team of 6, her weathered face carrying that particular gravity reserved for missions she knew would change us. 3 days ago, we lost contact with Research Team Delta 7, she began, projecting a series of photographs onto the wall behind her. The images showed what appeared to be an endless maze of yellow-painted walls, fluorescent lighting, and damp carpet that seemed to stretch into infinity. They were conducting a standard mapping expedition in what we've designated as Level 0 of the Backrooms phenomenon. I'd heard whispers about the Backrooms for months. Officially, it didn't exist. Unofficially, it was the government's worst-kept secret, a parallel space accessible through specific no-clip points in reality, where the laws of physics and geography broke down into something alien and hostile. Delta 7 consisted of 4 personnel, Walsh continued. Dr. Jennifer Hawthorne, cartographer, Specialist Mike Rodriguez, communications, Dr. Alan Brennan, lead researcher, and Corporal Lisa Park, security. Their last transmission was received at 13:47 hours on Sunday. It consisted of a single word: run. My teammate Torres leaned forward. What's our insertion method? The same no-clip point Delta 7 used, a maintenance door in the basement of the Millbrook office complex. Building's been condemned for 6 months, but the door, well, it leads somewhere it shouldn't. Walsh's expression darkened. I need to be clear about something. 17 teams have entered the Backrooms in the past 2 years. Only 9 have returned. Of those 9, 3 members required immediate psychiatric intervention. She paused, studying each of us in turn. The Backrooms appear to be infinite. They exist outside normal space-time. Teams have reported walking for weeks without finding an exit, surviving on mysterious vending machines and water fountains that appear at regular intervals. Some have encountered things, entities that shouldn't exist. The photographs changed, showing crude sketches and blurry surveillance footage of shadowy, elongated figures moving through the yellow corridors. Your mission is simple, Walsh concluded. Find Delta 7, extract any survivors. Return within 72 hours. If you don't check in every 6 hours, we're sealing the entrance behind you. As we geared up, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were preparing for a mission to somewhere that existed beyond the boundaries of reality itself. The entrance was exactly as described. A maintenance door marked "Authorized Personnel Only" in the basement of an abandoned office building. But when Kowalski opened it, instead of revealing a utility closet, it opened onto something impossible. Yellow walls stretched away from us in 3 directions, meeting at perfect right angles. The carpet beneath our feet was a hideous shade of orange-brown, and the air hummed with the constant buzz of fluorescent lights mounted in the acoustic tile ceiling. The space felt wrong in a way that made my inner ears struggle for balance. "Jesus," whispered Martinez, our medic. "It's exactly like the photos." But photographs couldn't capture the smell. a musty, damp odor like wet cardboard mixed with cleaning supplies. They couldn't convey the subtle wrongness of the geometry, the way shadows seemed to bend at impossible angles, or the oppressive weight of infinite space pressing down on us. "Comms check," ordered Lieutenant Brooks, our team leader. Each of us confirmed our radios were working on both local and base frequencies. "Base, this is Rescue 6. Brooks spoke into his headset. "We have successfully entered the target zone. Begin in search pattern Alpha." "Copy, Rescue 6. You are clear to proceed. First check-in at 1400 hours." We moved forward in standard formation, following the established protocol for Backrooms exploration. Torres took point with the compass and GPS unit, though we all knew neither would function properly in this space. Jenkins covered our 6, constantly checking behind us to ensure our exit point remained visible. The corridors were identical in every direction. Same yellow paint, same stained carpet, same flickering fluorescent fixtures. After 30 minutes of walking, I began to understand why previous teams had reported psychological difficulties. The monotony was aggressive, almost weaponized. My brain kept trying to identify landmarks, to create a mental map, but there was nothing to anchor to. "Movement ahead," Torres whispered, raising his fist. We froze, weapons ready. In the distance, barely visible in the endless yellow corridor, a figure stumbled into view. As it approached, we could see it was a woman in civilian clothes, moving with the unsteady gait of someone who had been walking for days. "Dr. Hawthorne," Brooks called out. "Dr. Hawthorne, can you hear me?" The woman looked up, and I saw her face clearly for the first time. It was Dr. Jennifer Hawthorne, according to the photographs in her file, but something was fundamentally wrong. Her eyes were too wide, too bright, and she was smiling a smile that belonged on no human face. "You found me," she said, her voice carrying an odd echo in the acoustic space. "I've been waiting. We've all been waiting." As she drew closer, I noticed other details that sent ice through my veins. Her clothes were completely clean despite apparently wandering these corridors for 3 days. Her shoes showed no wear, and her shadow. Her shadow was moving independently, writhing across the floor in patterns that had nothing to do with her movement or the position of the lights above. "Where are the others?" Brooks asked, maintaining his professional composure despite what we were all seeing. Dr. Hawthorne's smile widened impossibly. "They're everywhere. They're nowhere. They're in the walls, in the ceiling, in the spaces between spaces. Would you like to see them?" Martinez was backing away slowly, his face pale. "LT, this isn't right. Something's really not right here." That's when we heard it. A sound like static mixed with whispers coming from everywhere and nowhere. The fluorescent lights began to flicker in sequence, creating waves of shadow that rolled down the corridor toward us. And in those shadows, shapes moved. Dr. Hawthorne began to laugh, a sound like breaking glass. "The Backrooms don't just trap you," she said. "They change you. They make you part of the maze. And now you're here, and you'll never leave, and you'll become like us, like all of us who stayed too long." Brooks grabbed my arm. "Fall back. Everyone fall back to the entrance. Now." But when we turned around, the corridor behind us stretched on infinitely, identical to the one ahead. Our exit point was gone. We had been walking for what felt like hours, though our watches had all stopped working the moment Dr. Hawthorne appeared. The Backrooms seemed to have swallowed time along with space, leaving us in an eternal fluorescent twilight. "Base, this is Rescue 6. Do you copy?" Brooks kept trying the radio every few minutes, but received only static in response. The comms equipment that had worked perfectly at the entrance was now completely dead. Torres had given up on the compass entirely after watching the needle spin wildly before settling on a direction that changed every time he looked away. "The magnetic field here is completely fucked," he muttered. "It's like we're not even on Earth anymore." Dr. Hawthorne followed us at a distance of about 30 feet, never getting closer, never falling behind. She had stopped speaking, but her presence was a constant pressure on the edge of our vision. Occasionally, one of us would catch a glimpse of her doing something impossible, walking on the wall, or appearing in two places at once, or briefly becoming translucent. "We need to talk about what we're seeing," Martinez said during our third rest stop, "because either I'm losing my mind, or the laws of physics don't apply here." Kowalski nodded grimly. "The shadows are moving wrong. The perspective is off. Sometimes I look down a corridor and it seems to curve, but when I walk down it, it's straight." Jenkins, who had been unusually quiet, spoke up. "I keep hearing voices, whispers. Sometimes they sound like my ex-wife, sometimes like my dead brother. They're coming from inside the walls." "The briefing mentioned psychological effects," Brooks said, though he didn't sound convinced by his own words. "We need to stay focused on the mission. Find the rest of Delta 7, get out." As if summoned by his words, Dr. Hawthorne's voice drifted down the corridor toward us. "You want to find them? They're in room 237. Take the next left, then straight for 47 doors, then right at the water fountain, then left again where the carpet changes color." The specificity of her directions was unsettling, but we had no other leads. Against our better judgment, we followed her instructions. The water fountain she mentioned was ancient, the kind you might find in a 1970s school building. The water that came from it was ice cold and tasted of minerals and metal. Despite our rations, we were all desperately thirsty, and the water felt like salvation. It was Martinez who noticed the problem first. "Guys," he said, backing away from the fountain, "check the wall behind you." Where the yellow paint had been pristine moments before, there were now handprints. Hundreds of them in different sizes pressed into the wall as if the surface were soft clay instead of painted drywall. Some of the prints were small, like children's hands. Others were unnaturally large, with fingers too long to be human. And as we watched, new handprints appeared, pressing out from inside the wall as if someone trapped within was trying to push through. "Room 237 is just ahead," Dr. Hawthorne called out cheerfully. "They're all waiting for you." Room 237 wasn't a room at all. It was a section of corridor where the walls had been torn open, revealing a space that shouldn't have been able to exist. The opening was roughly rectangular, about 8 feet wide and 10 feet tall, but looking through it was like peering into the inside of a kaleidoscope. The space beyond contained fragments of different rooms, different times, different realities, all jumbled together in a way that made my eyes water. In the center of this impossible space, we found the rest of Delta 7, or what was left of them. Specialist Rodriguez sat in a chair that appeared to be floating about 3 feet off the ground, his communications equipment spread around him in a perfect circle. He was speaking continuously into his radio, but the words weren't in any language I recognized. His eyes had been replaced by tiny television screens, each showing static. Dr. Brennan was partially embedded in what looked like a section of office wall, his body from the waist down disappearing into the surface as if it were water. He was writing in a notebook with mechanical precision, filling page after page with symbols that hurt to look at directly. Corporal Park was the worst. She was standing guard at the entrance to the impossible room, her rifle at the ready, but her body was wrong. Elongated, stretched like taffy, so that she stood nearly 9 feet tall. Her face had been duplicated so that she had 4 eyes and 2 mouths, both of which were speaking different words simultaneously. "The rescue team has arrived," one mouth said in Park's voice. "Threat level, maximum," said the other in a voice like grinding metal. Dr. Hawthorne clapped her hands together in delight. "Aren't they wonderful? The Backrooms made them better. They're part of the system now, part of the maze. They'll never be lost again because they are the maze." Brooks raised his weapon, though I could see his hand shaking. "What did you do to them?" "I didn't do anything," Hawthorne replied. "The Backrooms did it. The same thing it's doing to you right now. Can't you feel it? The way reality is becoming flexible?" She was right. I could feel it. A looseness in the world, as if the laws of physics were suggestions rather than rules. When I looked down at my hands, they seemed to flicker between different versions of themselves. Sometimes they were my hands as they were now, sometimes as they had been when I was 20, sometimes as gnarled and ancient as if I were 90. Martinez was staring at his reflection in the screen of his dead radio. "My face," he whispered, "my face keeps changing." Torres had dropped his compass and was watching it hover in the air, spinning slowly as it rotated through impossible orientations. "We need to get out of here," he said. "Now, before it's too late." But Dr. Brennan looked up from his notebook, his face a mask of desperate sanity. "There is no out," he said in a voice like breaking glass. "There is only in, deeper in. The back rooms go down forever, and up forever, and sideways forever. We're not in a place, we're in a concept. We're inside the idea of being lost." That's when the lights went out. In the absolute darkness that followed, I heard sounds that no human throat should have been able to make. I heard Jenkins screaming, but the scream came from the wrong direction, and it seemed to be coming from multiple places at once. I heard Kowalski laughing, but it was the laughter of something that had never understood humor, only the shape of it. When the lights flickered back on, we were no longer in room 237. We were in a corridor I didn't recognize, though it looked exactly like every other corridor we had seen. The difference was subtle. The yellow of the walls was slightly more yellow, the hum of the fluorescent lights was pitched slightly higher, and the carpet was damp with something that might have been water. Brooks was gone. So was Jenkins. So was Kowalski. Only Torres, Martinez, and I remained, standing in the endless yellow maze with Dr. Hawthorne smiling at us from 30 feet away. "3 little pigs," she sang in a voice like a child's nursery rhyme. "3 little pigs, and the big bad Backrooms wants to come in." Time had become meaningless. We had been walking for what felt like days, but our watches remained frozen. We had eaten our rations, but weren't hungry. We had finished our water, but weren't thirsty. The Backrooms were sustaining us, feeding us in ways that bypassed biology and went directly to some deeper level of existence. Martinez had stopped speaking entirely. He followed us with mechanical precision, but his eyes had taken on the same too bright quality as Dr. Hawthorne's. Occasionally, he would pause to write in a notebook he had pulled from his medical kit, filling pages with symbols that made my vision blur. Torres was talking constantly, but not to us. He was having conversations with people who weren't there, responding to questions we couldn't hear, laughing at jokes that existed only in his mind. "Sarah, you know I can't do that," he would say to empty air. The regulations are very clear. Mom, I told you I'd call when I got back from the mission." I was holding on to sanity by focusing on concrete details. The number of ceiling tiles per section, 12. The pattern of stains on the carpet, mostly water damage, with occasional darker spots that might have been blood. The way the fluorescent lights hummed at approximately 60 hertz, creating a constant electrical whisper. But even these anchors were beginning to fail. The ceiling tiles weren't always 12. Sometimes there were 11, sometimes 13. The stains on the carpet would shift when I wasn't looking directly at them, rearranging themselves into patterns that almost looked like faces, like maps, like warnings written in a language of moisture and decay. Dr. Hawthorne had been joined by others. The missing members of our team appeared occasionally at the edge of vision. Brooks walking through walls, Jenkins appearing in multiple places at once, Kowalski speaking backward in languages that had never existed. They were all smiling the same impossible smile. "You're almost ready," Hawthorne said during one of her increasingly frequent conversations with us. "The integration is nearly complete. Soon, you'll understand what it means to be part of something infinite." I tried to respond, to tell her that we would never give in, that we would find a way out. But when I opened my mouth, the words that came out weren't mine. "The yellow goes on forever," I heard myself say. "The fluorescent lights are the stars of this universe. The carpet is soft beneath our feet, and we are home." Torres laughed, a sound like breaking bells. "Home," he agreed. "We've always been home. We were never anywhere else." Martinez looked up from his notebook, his two bright eyes focusing on nothing. "The mathematics are perfect," he said. "Infinite space, infinite time, infinite possibility. We exist in all states simultaneously. We are the wave function of reality itself." I realized with growing horror that they were right. The backrooms weren't just changing our bodies, they were changing our thoughts, our desires, our fundamental understanding of what existence meant. We were becoming something other than human, something that belonged in this yellow eternity. But some small part of my mind, some stubborn core of identity, refused to surrender. I clung to my name, Marcus Chen. I clung to my mission, find the survivors, get out. I clung to the memory of sunlight, of blue skies, of a world where walls had limits and corridors led somewhere. That's when I saw it, in the distance down a corridor that looked exactly like every other corridor. A door that was different. It wasn't yellow. It wasn't part of the endless maze. It was brown wood with a brass handle, and it had a small sign that read "Exit." The door was a trap. I knew it was a trap. Everything in the back rooms was a trap, designed to lure you deeper into the maze, to make you believe that escape was possible even as you surrendered more and more of yourself to the infinite yellow eternity. But it was the first thing I had seen in days that wasn't part of the standardized backrooms architecture, and I was desperate enough to investigate. Torres and Martinez followed me without question. They had become docile, compliant, their personalities dissolving into whatever the backrooms wanted them to be. Occasionally, Martinez would pause to add more symbols to his notebook, and Torres would have brief conversations with invisible people. But otherwise, they moved like sleepwalkers through a dream of yellow corridors. Dr. Hawthorne and the twisted versions of our missing teammates maintained their distance, always visible at the edge of perception but never directly confronting us. They didn't need to. They knew we were already lost. The door grew larger as we approached, but not in the way objects normally grow larger with proximity. It expanded in impossible directions, becoming more itself, more real, more present in the reality-fluid space of the Backrooms. By the time we reached it, it dominated my entire field of vision, a rectangle of normal brown wood that seemed to contain the promise of everything I had lost. I reached for the brass handle. "Don't," said a voice behind me. A voice I recognized but hadn't heard in what felt like years. I turned to find Brooks standing in the corridor, but not the twisted version that had been appearing and disappearing at the edges of our group. This was the real Brooks, tired, dirty, frightened, but unmistakably human. His eyes were his own eyes, clear and focused, without the too bright quality that marked those who had been changed by the Backrooms. "It's not an exit," he said. "It's a door deeper in. I've been following you for hours, trying to catch up, trying to warn you. The real exit, I found it, but it's not what any of us expected." He looked at Torres and Martinez, his face grim. "How far gone are they?" I followed his gaze. Martinez had stopped writing and was staring at the door with an expression of religious ecstasy. Torres was having an animated conversation with someone who wasn't there, occasionally nodding and laughing at unheard jokes. "Pretty far," I admitted. "The Backrooms are changing them, changing all of us. How are you still you?" Brooks smiled grimly. "Pain," he said. "Physical pain keeps you anchored. Every time I feel myself starting to slip, starting to think that this place makes sense, I bite down on this." He showed me his tongue, which was scarred with bite marks. "The real exit is back the way we came, about 2 hours of walking. But Marcus," he paused, studying my face, "you need to know something. The exit only works for one person at a time, and once someone goes through, it disappears for at least 24 hours. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we have to choose. One of us gets out. The others stay here and become part of the maze." He looked at Torres and Martinez. And honestly, looking at them, I'm not sure they'd want to leave even if they could. As if summoned by his words, Dr. Hawthorne appeared beside the false door, her impossible smile wider than ever. "Such a difficult choice," she said. "But really, why choose at all? Stay here with us. Become part of something infinite. The outside world is so small, so limited. Here, you can be anything, experience everything, exist in all states simultaneously." Torres looked up from his invisible conversation. "She's right, you know," he said to Brooks and me. "I've been talking to everyone I've ever known. My mother is here, and my first-grade teacher, and the girl I had a crush on in high school. They're all here, and they're all perfect, and they all love me exactly as I am." Martinez held up his notebook, pages covered with symbols that seemed to writhe and shift on the paper. "I've solved it," he said. "The unified theory of everything. It's all here, in the mathematics of infinite space. Reality is just a subset of possibility, and possibility is infinite." Brooks grabbed my arm. "We need to go, now, while you're still you." But I found myself hesitating, because the terrible truth was that Dr. Hawthorne was right. The Backrooms offered something that the outside world never could: infinite possibility, infinite time, infinite space to explore every potential version of yourself. Yes, it was alien and hostile and wrong, but it was also complete. "Marcus," Brooks said urgently, "look at me. Really look at me." I did, and saw something that chilled me more than anything else I had witnessed in this place. Brooks was changing too. His eyes were beginning to show that too bright quality. His shadow was starting to move independently. The human Brooks who had found me was already being subsumed by the Backrooms version of himself. "Run," he whispered. Before it's too late for both of us. I ran. I abandoned Torres and Martinez to their infinite conversations and impossible mathematics. I left Brooks to his slowly changing shadow and two bright eyes. I turned my back on Dr. Hawthorne's offer of perfect, eternal, alien completion, and I ran through the endless yellow corridors toward something that might be salvation. The Backrooms fought me every step of the way. Corridors that had been straight became mazes. Walls shifted when I wasn't looking directly at them, creating dead ends where none had existed moments before. The fluorescent lights flickered in patterns that seemed designed to hypnotize, to slow me down, to make me stop and rest and give in to the creeping changes I could feel working through my body. My shadow was wrong. I could see it in the reflective surfaces, the metal frames of the light fixtures, the occasional mirror mounted on a wall for no discernible purpose. Sometimes my shadow had too many arms. Sometimes it moved a fraction of a second after I did. Sometimes it was the shadow of someone else entirely. But I kept running, clinging to the concrete details that anchored me to my human identity. My name, Marcus Chen. My age, 34. My job, search and rescue specialist. My mission, find the survivors, failed, and get out in progress. The exit, when I found it, was everything and nothing like what I'd expected. It wasn't a door. It wasn't a portal. It was simply a place where the yellow corridor ended, opening onto a gray concrete stairwell that led upward into darkness. The air that came from that stairwell smelled of rain and car exhaust and 100 other scents that belonged to the real world. But standing in front of it, blocking my path, was myself. Not a twisted Backrooms version of myself, not a shadow self or a reflection self. It was me, exactly as I was, down to the tear in my uniform and the stubble on my face and the look of desperate determination in my eyes. "You can't leave," the other Marcus said. "Not yet. Not until you understand what you're giving up." "I understand perfectly," I replied. "I'm giving up madness. I'm giving up losing myself in an infinite yellow nightmare." "You're giving up infinity," the other Marcus said. "You're choosing to go back to a world with limits, with death, with endings. You're choosing to be small again." He was right, and that's what made it so terrible. The Backrooms offered something that no human had ever possessed: true infinity, unlimited time, unlimited space, unlimited possibility. Yes, it came at the cost of humanity, but what was humanity compared to forever? "I'm choosing to be human," I said. "I'm choosing to be real." The other Marcus smiled sadly. Human, real, such small words, such limited concepts. But he stepped aside. I walked past him, up the concrete stairs toward the smell of rain and the promise of a sky that had limits. Behind me, I could hear the Backrooms calling, whispers in languages that had never been spoken, offers of wonders that had never been imagined, promises of existence beyond the boundaries of what was possible. I climbed toward the light. The debrief took 3 days. 3 days of questions, medical examinations, psychological evaluations, and forms that asked me to describe experiences that had no words in any human language. Officially, the mission was classified as a partial success. We had located the survivors of Delta 7, confirming their fate. Unofficially, the Backrooms project was suspended indefinitely. The entrance in the Millbrook office complex was sealed with concrete and steel and marked with warnings that would ensure it was never opened again. The psychologists assured me that the symptoms would fade with time. The way shadows seemed to move independently, the occasional glimpse of yellow corridors at the edge of my vision. The dreams where I walked through infinite spaces filled with the hum of fluorescent lights and the whisper of voices offering unlimited possibility. They were wrong. The symptoms haven't faded. If anything, they've gotten stronger. Sometimes, when I'm alone in empty hallways or underground parking garages, I can feel it. The pull of infinite space, the promise of a world where the laws of physics are merely suggestions. I dream about them every night. Torres having perfect conversations with everyone he's ever loved. Martinez writing equations that describe the fundamental nature of reality itself. Brooks becoming something more and less than human. They're still there in the yellow corridors, part of something larger than themselves. And sometimes, in those dreams, I wonder if I made the right choice. Sometimes, when the world feels too small and too limited and too bounded by the arbitrary restrictions of reality, I wonder what would have happened if I had stayed. What it would be like to exist in all states simultaneously, to experience infinite possibility, to be part of something vast and eternal and utterly alien. The official report states that I was the sole survivor of a rescue mission that encountered hostile, anomalous phenomena in a pocket dimension of unknown origin. It recommends that no further expeditions be authorized. But in the margins of that report, in handwriting that looks like mine but contains symbols I don't remember learning, someone has written, "The yellow goes on forever. The fluorescent lights are the stars of this universe. And we are always, always home." I don't remember writing those words, but I can't stop thinking about them. And lately, I've been noticing maintenance doors in places where there shouldn't be maintenance doors. Doors marked authorized personnel only, that lead to spaces that exist outside the normal rules of architecture and geography. I haven't opened any of them yet,